I'm joined now by Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont, chair of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. Good to have you here.
Good to be with you.
I do think this, I've heard this from folks, wealthy folks. The antitrust, the tax stuff, the antitrust stuff, the worker stuff, they really don't like it. And people don't, I think, quite realize how aggressive this administration has been on all of those fronts.
Biden is the first president ever to walk on a picket line during a strike. That is a very significant symbolic act. Lina Khan at the FTC has been more aggressive in taking on corporate monopolies than we have ever seen.
Probably in 50 or 60 years.
I think that's right. Both parties have been absolutely negligent in breaking up monopolies. Biden wants progressive tax reform at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, when the effective tax rate of billionaires is lower than that of nurses and truck drivers. He wants, correctly, that the billionaire class stop paying its fair share of taxes. And you're right. At a time when we have so much greed out there, when the religion of the billionaire class is greed, they would rather give up democracy than take a hit.
That quote really struck me. The quote that we think Democrats are more of a risk to capitalism than Trump is to democracy.
It really is incredible. It shouldn't be shocking, really, but it is, knowing the history of the country over many years. But these guys are so greedy, so wedded to their wealth and their power, that they will do anything to keep that position. But the issue, and I'm glad you're focusing on it, because it's certainly not just Trump. I mean, Trump is just an outrageous example of selling out for money.
Yeah, he's a vessel for them. They don't. He's just there.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear, Chris. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care at all. Why? Right. You have a look at the amount of money the insurance companies and drug companies put into candidates. Unbelievably, at a time when everybody with a brain in his head understands that climate change is a threat to the planet, guess what? This guy, Trump, wants to deregulate the fossil fuel industry even more and destroy the planet. Why? All these guys are spending huge amounts of money.
You've also got this situation, which is, this has been the case. Money in politics in the U.S. has worked in all kinds of ways. But just reading that quote about Mellon writing the $50 million check and the super PACs, the Post-Citizens United, the amount that you can give, it really is a new thing.
It is. You're right. It's always been there. It has reached a new level. I just came from an event with Jamal Bowman up in the Bronx, and that's a perfect example of this. Bowman is a strong, progressive member of Congress who has spoken out on the horrific situation in Gaza, et cetera, et cetera. And they are saying to him, and this, by the way, what the Bowman situation is really, they're making a statement to all of Congress. You have the guts to take on neocon foreign policy. You want to take on the corporate interests that are so powerful. I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to lose. And that message goes all over Congress. You stand up for working class people, hey, your days are numbered. This is oligarchy, and it's an issue that we have got to focus on and deal with.
Yeah, that primary, which we noted is the most expensive in American history already. There's been about $15 million spent by AIPAC, Associated Super PAC. Also, the crypto people have also gotten it, which has not gotten as much attention.
Right.
The crypto interests, and you saw what happened with Donald Trump says, I mean, it's just like as black and white as you can get. I like crypto now. Give me money. Right. And then the crypto people come out and they say, here's some money. Thank you for protecting crypto.
Absolutely. It's absolutely disgraceful. So, I mean, what do we have to do? I mean, first of all, it goes without saying that we have got to deal with Citizens United. We got to get rid of that. And second of all, we have got to do what many other countries around the world do, have public funding of elections. Look, you want to run against me, that's fine. But you don't have the right to have 50 times more money coming from rich people in order to defeat me. We should be debating ideas.
I saw a stat today, and I think this is correct, that, obviously in the UK, they're about to have an election. The amount of money spent on that election so far is less than the New York 16 primary. For the nation.
Right.
Across all parties. So we just do things in a totally different way. And again...
And it is getting worse. Your point is, and I want everybody to hear this.
When you reduce it to this, yes.
Look, billionaires are doing phenomenally well. They have never, ever had it so good. They got so much money that they're sitting there, hey, let's start a super PAC. Right. Let's put $100 million. Let's beat that guy. Let's support that guy because we need more tax breaks. Hey, we're only worth $50 billion. Hardly can get by. Corporate profits are soaring. This is an issue. Look, to anyone out there, we are not going to be able to do what we want to do, deal with climate change, guarantee health care to all people, have a tax system which is fair, make sure that our kids do not have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any country on earth. We're not going to be able to do any of that unless we take on a corrupt campaign finance system, which is what you're talking about.
You know, one of the things that's striking to me, too, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I also think it's short-sighted on the part of the business class. Because I actually think...
I don't agree with you.
You don't agree with it. No. I think that they are underestimating the tail risk of a Trump administration and what it would do. You think they're going to get... They're going to be all right?
I think that greed is so incredibly ugly and pervasive that these guys want it. They want more and more. I think they could care less about what's happening to the elderly, the children, the working class of this country. And I believe that they will do anything that they can to enrich themselves. And Trump is clearly their guy.
Senator Bernie Sanders, it's a pleasure to have you here in person.
Good to be with you.
The United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit is arguably the most reactionary, lawless court in our land. It's saying something. Multiple times this term alone, the already far-right Trump Supreme Court has been forced to reverse Fifth Circuit rulings that push the envelope too far even for them. Today was such an occasion. By a vote of 8-1, the Supreme Court once again rebuked the Fifth Circuit and upheld a federal law prohibiting folks under domestic violence restraining orders from owning guns, which the lower court had ruled unconstitutional. Last week, in a unanimous decision, SCOTUS rejected a challenge to the abortion pill, mifepristone, which the Fifth Circuit had rubber-stamped. And so on the one hand, some folks might find it reassuring that this Supreme Court does not always do the most extreme thing possible. And it is, to a certain extent. But something to consider is that things can always get worse. If Donald Trump wins a second term and will have likely opportunity to appoint a few more justices, we could see the highest court in the land become even more extreme than the Fifth Circuit is now. Sherrilyn Ifill is a former president and director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the founding director of Howard University's new 14th Amendment Center for Law and Democracy. She joins me now. Sherrilyn, just start on the court's decision today in this 8-1 gun case, which again was, I think, welcome news. Your reaction to the ruling?
Well, of course it's welcome, and it was, of course, an 8-1 decision. Justice Clarence Thomas was in the dissent. And in some ways, that's kind of a window into your conversation about the Fifth Circuit. In many ways, when the court has to push back the Fifth Circuit, they're having to punish a child that they spoiled. The Fifth Circuit has been taking cues from, they've been taking cues from the Supreme Court. And when these cases come up to the Supreme Court, then the Supreme Court has to explain to the Fifth Circuit, no, you've gone too far. You may remember, Chris, that it was a case involving the gun rights of domestic abusers that caused Clarence Thomas in 2016 to break his then decade-long period of silence during oral arguments in a case called Voisin, that suddenly I was in the courthouse that day and we suddenly heard his voice. So he has been solicitous of this issue of whether or not guns can be kept from domestic abusers since then. And so there are judges on the Fifth Circuit who are taking cues from a Clarence Thomas. And so today there was this 8-1 decision, which was very important. It was also important because in some ways the chickens are beginning to come home to roost, and this Supreme Court is having to untangle the Gordian knots that it created in some of its jurisprudence, like the Bruen case, which has left courts, lower courts, believing that it's essentially the Second Amendment is a free-for-all and a literal suicide pact in our society. And now the Supreme Court is trying to bring some order, at least from this decision, to the way courts have interpreted Bruen. And what's been really lovely to see today in the opinion is the concurrence of Justice Jackson, who basically scolds the court and says, this is something of the court's making. Courts cannot make sense of what to do with the Bruen decision, which seems to suggest that there are no regulations or limits on gun ownership that can be allowed, and that this case is a step in the right direction, but not at all enough. Yeah, the Bruen, which was written by Justice Thomas, it's a Justice Thomas opinion, and he says in his dissent today in 8-1, here's what I meant in Bruen.
that if it's not there at the founding era, you can't do anything. So you couldn't, there was no conception of the category of domestic violence at the time. So obviously there were no laws barring people who were guilty of domestic violence from buying a gun. Ergo, no. And you've got this fascinating situation where the rest of the courts, the liberals and then the conservatives, trying to say, well, no. Come on, that can't be the case. And all this different kind of reasoning of like, how do we unwind what we kind of signed on to in Bruen?
Yes, that's the problem, is that they are now facing what they have done. And at some point when you read, Justice Thomas's dissent, and he's going on about surety laws in the antebellum period, I mean, there's just something where they've lost the plot. But they can't throw up their hands and claim innocence, the other conservative justices, because they have joined in with this. I would say the same would be true with the FDA case in which the court, saved the access to the abortion pill for the time being on standing grounds, ruling that the plaintiffs in that case, doctors and medical associations, did not have standing to challenge the FDA's decisions around mifepristone, the abortion pill. Once again, if you can figure out the Supreme Court's jurisprudence on standing, you're better than I am. And I taught con law and civil procedure for 20 years. Of course, standing is the doctrine that determines who is entitled to challenge a law and bring a suit in court. You can't just bring a suit because you don't like a law or because you don't like what a particular official did. You have to actually have been injured in fact. That injury has to be fairly traceable to the defendant's conduct. And the claim has to be capable of being redressed by the litigation. But we know this Supreme Court, in a case called 303 Creative, allowed a claim to go forward of a woman who thought she might create a website. It's what I call she worries standing because Justice Gorsuch said she hasn't created a website yet, but she's thinking about creating a website. And if she does create a website, she worries, he said,
it's stressful.
And I'm quoting, she worries that a gay person will come in and want her to make something for their wedding, and she would refuse, and then she would be in trouble. So if you've issued that decision, it's not a stretch for the Fifth Circuit to think that it's okay for doctors who have never prescribed mifepristone, who've never taken it, to believe that they have standing just out of their own personal religious belief to challenge the FDA's rulings on the abortion pill.
I love I'm going to use that line. I'm going to credit you with the punishing a child they spoiled with the Fifth Circuit, because we've got 3 cases in the last week, right? So there's 3 cases. There's the mifepristone reversed 9-0. There's today's gun case reversed 8-1, and then the yesterday or 2 days ago yesterday's tax case Moore, right, reversed 7-2. And what my takeaway, you see a lot of conservatives who are very invested in sort of propping up the kind of reputational capital of this court, saying, look, you libs, they're actually doing law. They're not just, right-wing nuts, and they're not just voting along party lines. They're doing law. There's something to that. But then my thinking is like, well, what's the Fifth Circuit doing? If they're doing law, then what's the Fifth Circuit doing? And what's to say that the Fifth Circuit couldn't be the Supreme Court someday?
Well, I heard you at the top say, Chris, that, things could get worse. There's no question about it. I mean, if we look at the cast of characters on the Fifth Circuit, and to be fair, the Fifth Circuit has been conservative for a very long time. Yep. When I was a baby lawyer, litigating in the Fifth Circuit was always a trial. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, by the way, covers the states of Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. So for a civil rights lawyer, because these are states with large Black and Latino populations, it's always a struggle. There were glory days of the Fifth Circuit during the civil rights movement, but that was a long time ago. So I don't mean to say that the Fifth Circuit were, they were all angels, prior to this iteration of judges appointed by President Trump. But many of these judges are kind of over the top. If you've ever read an opinion by James Hull, which reads like a tract from Bible study, or, the judge who's kind of who can be counted on to do anything around immigration, or Andrew Oldham, one of the judges who wouldn't say that Brown was correctly decided. These are judges who are true ideologues, true zealots, and they can't really be bothered with the details of law. But they have been getting green lights from this Supreme Court. And so when you ask what are they doing, they're doing what they believe that they will have permission to do. And that permission, they believe, has been granted by the Supreme Court. You are quite right that the election this year is a referendum on where we're going to go with the Supreme Court. But I'm glad you're talking about the Fifth Circuit, because the Supreme Court's not the only problematic
Correct.
issue involving courts in our country, and the Fifth Circuit is a big one.
All right, Cheryl and Eiffel, great pleasure to have you as always. Thank you.